Sunday, Tampa's football team stuns the world.
Aaron Rodgers has been hot. And every time I look up, it was like the Bucs were scoring. Every time, you go down, you have a sip of your tequila, you look back up, they score again. Vintage Tom Brady.
Is Tampa Bay that good? Or is Green Bay maybe not as good as we thought they were?
And fellas, that was just in the first hour of the show. Keyshawn bringing it in hot. Wait till you hear what he has to say about Trevor Lawrence. We talked about Baker Mayfield there. We talked about Big Ben. We talked about Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Key on college football's number one quarterback in a very interesting comparison. That is on the way. Hang tight for that. But there is one other quarterback we want to talk about here on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin, presented by Progressive Insurance. And we're trying to find some good things to say. He's the quarterback of a 1-5 team with the Brinks truck showing up at his house every 2 weeks. Let's welcome in Mike Tannenbaum, ESPN NFL front office insider, to get to that guy. That's Kirk Cousins. Mike, hang tight. I want you to listen to Kirk after the game yesterday, a demoralizing loss to the Atlanta Falcons, who are as wayward as anybody in the league. They absolutely whipped the Vikings. This is Kirk Cousins on his head coach Mike Zimmer's decision to not bench him, even though after the game he said benching could be in his future, and the confidence he displayed in the second half of yesterday's game.
You just have to play well, in this business. And the reality is if the pace, that I'm on in terms of the interceptions, if that were to continue, I won't finish the season. I won't, you know what I mean? So there's a little bit of, you got to improve, whether it's, them telling me, hey, we got to improve, or them pulling me. You got to get better, and that'll be what the rest of the season will be about for me, trying to protect the football as best I can, because when you turn the ball over, it really hurts your chances to win, and I know that, and just need to improve as we look ahead to the rest of the season.
Mike, I got to get your thoughts on that. This is a guy that his most recent contract was $66 million guaranteed on an extension, essentially saying, maybe I need to sit. What do you make of this as a guy that's given out so many big money contracts to quarterbacks in your GM career?
Zubin, I actually like what he said, because that's showing leadership, which is, I'm going to absorb criticism and I'm going to give out praise. We could compare that to what Greg Williams said last week about the Jets defense and the offense, where it was not his fault and he was just putting gas on a fire. So I actually like what Kirk Cousins says. They have some really young skill players. Irv Smith Jr. is still a young player. Justin Jefferson's replacing Stephon Diggs. And it's going to take a little bit. So hopefully what he did is he took some of the pressure off of those young skill players and put it on himself, because he can handle it. Now, look, if it doesn't get better, they're only a one-win team. They're a massive disappointment. That conversation could get harder and harder. But I think for now, Zubin, I actually like it, because he wants to put the pressure on himself where he can handle it.
Mike, I don't like it, but anyway, when you look at yesterday's Pittsburgh Steelers-Cleveland game, what did you make of Baker Mayfield?
Key, he's not good enough. He is the weak link to that team right now. You can look at any of the statistics where he's average yards per pass, completion percentage. It's all near the bottom. But when the pocket gets compressed and he has to bail out, he's just not fast enough to outrun leverage. And what we're seeing is when a team like Pittsburgh, Key, that dominant front seven can make Cleveland play one-handed, even though they have these great weapons in Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. I think Baker Mayfield could very well be the weak link to this team, which is obviously young and it's improving. And if I'm the Browns, I'm concerned. That first pick six, he never saw Minka Fitzpatrick, who came down. They were playing like a one-robber, and Baker Mayfield never saw Fitzpatrick come down. And I think part of it is he has trouble seeing over bigger offensive linemen.
Let me ask you this, though, Mike, and obviously it's easy to say it now for any of us. How do you make that mistake at the number one overall selection when they did? You mentioned not fast enough. Clearly, you can see that in college. He struggled to get away from certain people on that defense in college. He struggled to throw the ball over big offensive linemen. I just don't understand how you miss on that.
Key, I think he was very productive. He made people around him better. When he has time and it's a clean pocket, he's very accurate. He has good anticipation. And I think myself, along with a lot of other people, said, hey, look at Drew Brees. When Drew Brees has a firm pocket, he could take a 7-step drop. then work his way back into the pocket, has great arm talent. So we saw somebody with physical measurements have a great career in Drew Brees, and I think a lot of people said if Brees could do it, Mayfield can do it.
You can't evaluate based on Drew Brees. It's an outlier, Jay.
I'll say that conversation for another time between you guys. I wanted to move on to the Patriots and what happened in this game? What did you see from Cam? Obviously 2 weeks for Bill Belichick to prepare, but what do you see overall?
Jay Will, I'm still a believer in the Patriots, but I think they need to add another receiver. Last year, they went out, they gave up a second-round pick for Mohamed Sanu from the Falcons. That didn't work out, but this is a team that needs another receiver because right now what we're seeing is the safeties are keying on Cam Newton as both a runner and a thrower, and they're saying, hey, if we're going to lose, N'Keal Harry, you're going to have to win one-on-one. And what we saw yesterday was when Julian Edelman got hurt, Julian Edelman was targeted 6 times. He only had 2 catches. They have nobody right now that's scaring an opposing defense. So of all the things we'll be talking about with the trade deadline, guys, look for the Patriots to add a receiver because I think if they do, they still have a chance to win the division.
Mike, last week you said that Trevor Lawrence was a better QB prospect than you've seen in a long time. What makes him so special?
I think it's a combination, and Key knows this guy really well, Vinny Testaverde and Andrew Luck. If he stopped playing football today in college, he'll have more rushing touchdowns than Kyler Murray, which is really remarkable when we talk about the athleticism of Kyler Murray. I think he can make all the throws. He's high character. He can process information, and there's really no holes in the game. And I think what's going to be interesting when we spin this story forward is, what happens if Trevor Lawrence doesn't want to go to New York? Could this be the first conversation we're having in the NFL since Eli Manning said, hey, I'm not going to be a San Diego Charger over a decade ago? And I think there's going to be a lot of speculation that if the Jets do wind up with the first pick in the coming months.
We'll see what happens. There's going to be a whole lot of orange on the field for Trevor Lawrence this coming Saturday. It'll be Clemson and Syracuse. And then once it's done, maybe a whole lot of Gang Green and a whole lot of Kelly Green in his future as well. We'll keep an eye on Trevor Lawrence. Like you said, most known for the hair and the arm, but maybe we should pay attention to the feet as well. Mike, thank you very much. You can always hear Mike's thoughts from a GM perspective every Monday morning here on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. Mike, thanks very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Great to have Mike Tannenbaum and his perspective on the program. You can catch Mike on Get Up at 8 Eastern as well. You were kind of shaking your head when he made that Trevor Lawrence comparison to Andrew Luck.
I was just thinking still about the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield and how they evaluated him coming out. Like if you go back and you look, I just don't understand what they're looking at sometimes.
How did you evaluate Baker Mayfield coming out of college?
I didn't think Baker Mayfield was the top quarterback in the draft. I did not. And it's very clear. It's on record. You can find it. I did not.
Why?
First of all, I don't like smaller quarterbacks. That in that comparison to Drew Brees, I like Baker personally. I helped him prepare for the draft, but I don't. Of the combine, but I don't like smaller quarterbacks taking that high. Everybody points to Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson landed in a perfect situation with the perfect coach and the perfect defense to bring him to where he is today. That was perfect situation. Drew Brees, perfect situation with Sean Payton. It was just a perfect situation. You can't just neither one of those guys were taken as the number 1 overall pick. Now you fast forward to Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is great. I think he's a great quarterback. But if you're the New York Jets, you have bigger holes than Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Your team sucks. It's the worst thing going. So you drafted a guy 3 years ago with the 3rd pick of the draft because he was your Trevor Lawrence. He has nothing around him, nothing, zero, zilch. Right? Nothing. He looks good at times and bad at times with nothing around him. A coach that how he wind up coaching the New York Jets, we'll never know. Right? But you're ready to move on from him because you think Trevor Lawrence is the next Andrew Luck? What the hell did Andrew Luck win? He won some games, went to an AFC championship game.
Yep, the Deflategate game.
And that's it.
Yep.
It wasn't like they act like Andrew Luck turned out to be Peyton Manning. Mind you, but when Peyton Manning was the number 1 pick, the Indianapolis Colts, they had a guy named Marvin Harrison who turned out to be a Hall of Famer. Is there any Marvin Harrison on the New York Jets? They had a guy there at the time named Marshall Faulk. Then they drafted a dude named Edgerrin James. Is any of them dudes anywhere around New York? Anybody like that on this team? So I don't understand why they think that the quarterback is the answer when they have one that they need to put pieces around. You take that number one pick and you trade it, and you do what the Boston Celtics in basketball have done. You stockpile a bunch of picks, and then you start to find guys that can help you build your damn team. I understand the sexiness. He threw for 5 touchdowns against Georgia Tech in the first half. They blew him out. He looks like the part. He played it. It's great. We should sign him up. But you got bigger holes on your team than the quarterback. Use your brain, fans. That's all I'm saying. Use your brain.
Key, very passionate there on defending Sam Darnold and his thoughts on Baker Mayfield. It only seems appropriate. We're asking you this morning on our Dr. Pepper Twitter feed, better chance to be their starting quarterback next